We've reached one of those, I don't know, call it a juncture, a turnaround point in our project bike. Although it's far from finished, we're getting to the point where we're going to reassemble it and then discover if it actually works. Now, in our last video, which covered the valve clearances, if we just walked up and fired that up, we would have been running a bike that had one definitely negative valve clearance. It was unmeasurable when the engine was cold. When the motor heated up, it would have opened that valve slightly. It would have been detrimental to performance, and it would have burnt out the valve. So now we have a question mark, of course, on that valve and how long it had been in that state. But getting back on track, we're at the point where we can actually put power to the bike. And this is a good time to find faults because we've got the bike fairly well stripped back. I mean, we've got an engine, carburetor, exhaust sitting in a frame, and a lot of the niceties around the bike have been removed. So access to the wiring and its components is quite easy. It's very kindly donated its battery to us. Now, first thing I'm going to do, and this might sound a bit wussy, but you see that I've got the negative terminal already connected, and I've got the positive, and I'm just tapping it lightly there. Now, that's going to tell me a lot. If that flashes over, if there's a big spark, that tells me a great deal about the wiring. It's telling me that there's an open short there somewhere, and if we were to connect that terminal, it would melt the battery. There are better ways to do this, but you know, I'm rough and ready, and I like to stick to things that are readily available to your average person. So I can see there that with the ignition off, we're not getting any flashover. Piece of work in my hands is what's left of the original ignition. So we're going to turn it on. Now I would expect a bit of a spark. Okay, you probably can't see that. Just a little bit of a tick as electricity flows. This is great. So with the ignition on, there are no open shorts. There are no full-blown short circuits that are going to set fire to this thing. We do have a fire extinguisher in the background. In fact, we've got several because we're not silly. But it's great to know we're not going to need them. Get a little bit more serious. So I mentioned that our Sparta donated its battery. It's very kind of it. They take exactly the same battery. Seeing as they're from a similar era, that sort of makes sense to me. Yeah, I will take care of these terminals, or we'll at least tidy them up. But I'm thinking definitely for the earth leader replacement wouldn't hurt. And the positive terminal is easy to repair as well. Okay. Oh! Can you guys see that? We've got dash lights. What else have we got? Do we have headlights? I took the tail light off, so that's not going to help. Oh, we have a headlight. Actually, we have two parking lights and a headlight. What else have we got? Huh. Okay, we've got a blown bulb in the back, or a bad connector. We've got 3/4 of our turn signal. We have no horn. Now, should we press the starter motor? That's a good question. Okay, well that's a little sad. So no starter motor. That's because the horn isn't working. Actually, that's not a surprise. I bet we've got a faulty or a problematic solenoid. Well, that's definitely a start, isn't it? Not a bad start at all. There is a fuse missing in the fuse box, so I've grabbed another fuse, a random size fuse, put that in, and I got more headlights. The horn has a loose wire, so I'll attend to that. What I'm more interested in is why the engine isn't turning. Now, there's our starter motor solenoid. What we need to do is bypass that and establish whether or not the starter motor is faulty, or if it's somewhere in the solenoid or in the wiring. Now I'm guessing that the fault is either the switch block or the solenoid. Now you might recall that the original wiring loom is quite burnt around here. So if somebody's cooked the solenoid, well, I don't know how available they are, but that's a fairly easy solution. So what we need to do is gently and carefully take the two insulators off, bearing in mind there is positive to there at this point, so it's quite easy to to create a short. If you do that, if things start getting smoky, disconnect the battery as fast as you can, and you'll save things, maybe, who knows. So we're going to bypass the solenoid. Alright. As a bonus, we have oil everywhere because I haven't put the tappet cover back on yet, the rocker cover. That's good, it's pumping oil. I don't like starting dry motors. Gonna have a flat battery soon. Okay, well that's interesting. So we know the starter motor itself is functional, so we'll turn our ignition off, which is probably outside of your field of view. I was just happy that there was such a fairly good distribution of power, to be honest.